Can you say a little bit more on what you meant by losing touch with the now and regressing back into the past? Is this like, does that mean your consciousness actually goes back there and you, in your time, and all your presentness is gone and you're stuck back there reliving it?
That's what most people do most of the time. They're seldom ever in present time. They're lamenting the past or caught up in a wish life around the future. Very few people spend much time in the present at all. So they're completely a victim to forces generated by other. You know, so that's the exact opposite of being individually sovereign. You have to be fully present in each and every moment. You have to be fully present in each and every moment.
It can be a bit of a long road to kind of get back, because the thing is, you just like forget everything else, and so you're just right there. It's a bit like, you know, when we've like talked about, you know, the inner child. You know what you do. You know, when you get triggered by something that, you know, the inner child experiences, you're back there. And so you're relating with it as if it's there, as if your emotional body is as old as, you know, whatever age the trauma happened to the child. You don't remember, I'm really 50, and this is just an experience that I had, and so let's, you know, heal the experience and bring it up to 50. You don't do that. You're back there and you start acting out as if you are that inner child, you know, that age. You know, so you do little tantrums and, you know, you do all that stuff. That's why we want to get it up to, you know, this age. Because that's what happens. That's what happens. You need to be really at a certain place in the process, like, you know, in your integration, to be able to do it, you know, without falling back, you know, into it. So you've cleared as much of the judgment as you can, you know, as you have, to be able to, okay, well, here I am. This is the result of my choices. Okay, you know, is it that I still have like a judgment of the choice that I made, or a judgment of the consequences, you know, as a result? So it's really a way of clearing more of a judgment of something that has happened in the past that you haven't been able to access before. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Kinda. So it's kind of like, it's almost like we've cleared up all the surface judgments that we have, and then it's like, oh, what did I do, you know, that created this? Or how did I get to be here? Is this really where I want to be, where I chose to be? Or how did this happen? So it's like, well, how did it happen? What choices did I make? Because we know it's all about, you know, making choices and then experiencing the consequences. What choice did I make that created this? And it's like, well, I don't know what happened. Well, you know, let's find out.
It's kind of an extension of the nightly review, which has always been a part of a very strong part of the processing, which some of you do. If you're wise, you will, you know, discipline yourself to do it each and every day. The nightly review being, you know, looking at the last day, looking at your interactions, looking at the effect that you've had, you know, quite honestly, looking at what you could have done differently. It's important to stay in the moment in each and every moment and to operate out of that. And it's also important that you're taken through this process by someone who's accredited in the Cosmosis process and can guide you through the process as to whether or not the clearing process and the enlightenment processes that we use, whether or not you're best to be more targeting the experience of future nows, or if you need to be working more rearward on clearing the time track. The reality is that a lot of what you're doing, certainly for a long period of time, once you enter into a process such as this, is going over old hurts, going over incidents in the past that you have judgment around. So that is a review process, which is freeing that energy up and putting that energy back to its correct place in the space-time continuum. Once you get through that, though, you also need to bring your prophecy, your ability to prophesize, which is something which a lot of people have a lot of fear around. You need to be able to work and learn how to work very strongly with prophecy. And the way that it's always been taught to those who end up being able to apply, to work, very wisely as a prophet, the way you discipline yourself to learn that is through this review process of bringing the wisdom of hindsight to unwise previous choices. Now, it's part of a discipline which in the long term gives you the ability to be able to focus your prophecy in every moment, to be able to foresee the consequences of every thought, of every action, not only for yourself but for those people who are choosing to place you in a position where you are mentoring them. And they use that as the major tool to assist people to be able to move towards their goals and the realisation of their dreams. You've got to learn to be able to foresee consequences, to be able to apply seership within the context of prophecy. This is an important part of the process of allowing you to be able to foresee consequences in each and every moment. The process that Linda's been talking about extensively is another important part of the process. It's a multifaceted process. It's important that you allow the Cosmosis facilitator that you're working with to guide you through the process until you learn to be able to recognise the way to be able to apply the process, and then ultimately to take it truly into the multidimensional sense, to move it into an eternal sense, even beyond the limitation of linear time. But you've got to walk before you can crawl, and or not.
Ponder on that.
See, you've got to be present in each and every moment and thus not blindly assimilate. That was something which was obviously wrong. That was obviously incorrect. Right? So, ultimately, really, that should have registered immediately, not even taken a few seconds. So, to move into this space of individual sovereignty, to move into pure awareness, to move into a true understanding of yourself as an eternal being, requires you to undo certain learnt behaviour and predispositions of the soul which have been acquired in a long range of experiences through time. And these processes that we use teach you to behave, to operate, to perceive, to sense in an entirely new way, yet to still operate within the context of what would be considered to be a normal life. Doesn't make you better or worse than anyone else. It just means that you're making different choices and you're moving into a space of awareness which will allow you to be an innovator and a pioneer in whatever chosen field you choose to move into.
So I guess in a nutshell, it's really bringing past unconscious choices that are still having an effect now into the conscious. So it doesn't, so we are more fully aware and conscious in all our choices moving forward. The past catching up with, here we are, and then all of it move forward.
Can I ask you both then, because obviously as we've been working together in triads and that, our focus with Cosmosis has really been about really bringing ourselves into the now and to feel how we're feeling, to process that. But what you're sharing now is that Cosmosis itself is taken out to a wider group. It's like there's so much more to it than what just working on ourselves, because you've been sharing about that whole bringing the past unconscious things into conscious and making choices. So it really the scope of it is vast as to who would choose to come to have a Cosmosis session with someone. It works with goals, it works with tapping past blockages and stuff. So the way we've been working is really within our own stuff, but it's like as we take it out, it's got a wider scope.
It's been described a number of times too that, you know, in the present moment, running Cosmosis process, the more present one is in that process, the more effective it will be. That in the re-choosing, in the complete re-choosing and then allowing what had previously limited that go, to let that go, that it ought to reharmonise and heal stuff all over the timeline, including beliefs.